Hi guys, this is Justin Feyereisen and you are listening to 88.7 WRFW, River Falls, Wisconsin. And I'm going to talk about Orson Welles and specifically Othello, which got released in the Criterion Collection. His first adaptation of William Shakespeare, the Bard, one of the greatest writers of all time. I said a few weeks ago about Howard Hawks and how he said there's only about 30 plots of film, so you got to focus on characters. Well, William Shakespeare came up with 25 of those 30 plots. So, Othello, or The Tragedy of Othello by the Moor of Venice. It is a 1951 film released in Europe, but it didn't get released in America until 1955. Like I said, it was released off of William Shakespeare's play, and it came out yesterday on Blu-ray and DVD as part of the Criterion Collection, which restored the art of films and talk about the greatest films of all time and the art of filmmaking. And I'm a huge fan of the Criterion Collection. I have 18, I believe. And they have so much effort put into these films. They have so much special features that enhance your viewingship. And these films are retail at like $37.99. But in July they had a sale and I hooked up. And there's another sale that's going to be soon. And when that sale comes, this is one I want to add to my collection because Orson Welles, the great Orson Welles, one of the finest actors, directors, he's one of those guys like Charlie Chaplin who's writing the scripts, he's starring in it, he's directing it, he's editing it. He has so much stuff that he's doing on his one film. And this is a passion project for him. They was going to be a shot in Italy and Rome and Morocco, and it was. But the Italian company that was going to finance the film dropped out at the last minute, so he had to pour his own money in it. He had to pour a lot of his savings into this movie. And he had to make it accessible because of the limitations where he didn't have financing. He had to shorten the script. It's a 3-hour play, and he had to shorten it into a 90-minute movie. And he financed it with his own money. This is the guy that made Citizen Kane. This is the guy who did War of the Worlds, the radio program. And this is one of the finest filmmakers ever. And he loved this project so much, he financed it with his own money. When he finally did make this film, it took him 3 years off and on. He had to stop production to raise funds. He did multiple shakes, perform the play live to get admission so he can make the film. And then it was released in 1951, and it did well in Europe, but he couldn't get an American distributor until 1955, and this film was a flop upon release. Nobody really cared about this. It got great reviews by the film critics that saw it, but the audience did not buy onto this film like he thought. They did re-release this film in 1992 after restoring it. His daughter, Beatrice Wells Smith, supervised the 1 million restoration, but this is, by a lot of people, known as a disaster in filmmaking. They didn't have the correct version. They had a low-quality version of the American version, which was 5 minutes shorter than the European version. The score was all messed up, and there was white noise, and they tried doing their best they could. They had to re-record the score, but they didn't have an actual copy of what the notes were, so they had to transpose it. And this messed up a lot of translation of the score. And they re-recorded it with not to Wells' vision. He had 40 mandolins playing the score in one point. And when they re-released it and re-edited it and restored it in 1992, they only had 4 mandolins record that part, and it wasn't even the right part. They changed up the opening where they removed the Gregorian chant in the opening. And then because it was restored and it was the definitive version, all the other copies on VHS and DVD were this new 1992 version. They took a George Lucas instead of a Peter Jackson, and they made this the only one they can, and basically they didn't destroy, but they stopped distributing the other copies. So the people that loved this film, they couldn't see the film that they grew up with, they couldn't see the film that they loved, and instead they had a mediocre version of this great film. Well, with this Criterion release, it is the 1955 version of the film, It is Welles's vision of the film, completely restored and remastered. And this film had so much problems with production that the last project that H.G. Wells ever completed was a documentary about filming Othello. And that is also included on this Criterion Collection. And there were times where he had to go off and make other movies for other studios, just as an actor. And there was this one point where I can't remember what movie it was for, but the suit that he was wearing, the costume, he's like, I need it to be lined with mink for my comfort. I want the inside of this costume to be lined with mink. And then he stole it from the movie afterwards, and he turned it inside out so you could see the mink lining, and he used that as one of the costumes for Othello. That's how much he had to cut costs because he could not get a financer to make this film. And he was a Shakespeare fan. This is not the only Shakespeare movie he made. He went on to make 3 or 4 more after this. And just the fact that he took a 3-hour play, took it 90 minutes over the course of 3 years filming. They had cast members that dropped out because you're on and off filming a movie for 3 years. Then you have to go back and refilm that scene with the new actors. And when I get a chance to see this movie, I am really excited because, like I said, Orson Welles is one of these guys who's a big name in cinematic history. I've seen Citizen Kane. I've heard the radio play of War of the Worlds that he did in the 30s. And he's just one of those guys that was so much ahead of his time. He's the guy in the Muppet movie, which has the Rich and Famous contract that he makes Kermit sign. I know that about Orson Welles, but this is one of his pet projects. This is his passion project, and I've never seen it. And now we get his version available on Blu-ray, and I can't wait to get this. This would be, I'll either wait till the sale this fall or put it on my Christmas, put it on my birthday wish and say, I would love to have this as a gift because I really want this a lot.